Hey guys, how's it going? Hopefully you're all doing very well and you've had a great weekend. So today we are back with another formation video where today we're going to be taking a look at the 4-4-1-1 second variant. Now we actually did a video on this not too long ago, around about a month ago, and I was thinking this was possibly a new meta formation in FIFA because I'd used this formation with these sorts of tactics and I thought it was incredible. Now as we are going through some of the formations again, I think it's a good way to run through it. So wasting no time, going straight into the tactics that I used for this formation, and here they are. Now as of recently, for me, I've tried balanced on defensive and offensive. I found this to be really effective. Now playing on press on possession loss is also something, as I said, I've experienced in the last couple of weeks. I've been trying it out a little bit. With press on possession loss, I feel like it works better on more offensive formations, given that this 4-4-1-1 isn't the most offensive formation. It's not a defensive formation, but it's not a very attacking formation either. So I don't feel like it's as effective because your players do start from kind of deeper positions, and it kind of takes a little bit more time for your players to get there and make that press effective. So I've definitely found that balanced is the way to go. Width-wise, we ended up settling on around 6. It's kind of standard for me. The width on offense and defense, and the depth is kind of something I don't really change from formation to formation. I think that's kind of more of a personal thing. But for me, I find that 6 is kind of standard. It kind of gives you the best of both worlds, and it's not something I really tweak around with too much, irrespective of the formation. As I said, depth-wise, I stayed on around 5. I typically tend to go between 4 and 6 are kind of the numbers that I go between, dependent on, you know, the formation. But for me, I found 5 was pretty effective. As talked about, offensive style, I went for balance, because for me, again, I didn't really find any of the other offensive styles that effective. I don't really like using possession. I don't find it works. Fast build-up for me is not something that I like using, because I think it does kind of pull your team out of position. And as I said, when you use something like fast build-up or a press, it does kind of make your instructions kind of a little bit irrelevant, because some of your instructions might tell your players to stay back while attacking. If you're playing on a press, they're going to ignore that and they're going to go forwards anyway. So for me personally, I found that balance was the best one. The only other one I would try, as always, is long ball. If you have really quick players up front and you're not someone who's very good at triggering the runs yourself, you can use something like long ball, because it means the players will make the runs for you and you don't have to trigger them yourself. But for me, I found that balanced was the most effective. And when it comes to corners, free kicks and players in the box, I kept on around 5. It's not something, again, I really tweak around with too much, because I want my instructions to kind of do what I tell them to do. If you have it on a little bit higher or lower, they do kind of ignore those instructions. And corners and free kicks, I always go short on corners and free kicks, so I'm going to have the 1 in the box. When it comes to the instructions, we're going to start up top, and we're going to be using Jamie Vardy this time around, but it's irrespective of the player. We've got a pretty quick player up front. So because of that, stay central, getting behind, and stay forward was what I found was really effective. Now, stay central and getting behind, of course, if you have a really quick striker, which most people will in this game, obviously they're kind of the go-to tactics. We've already got a little bit of width in the team, so we don't need Vardy to be on drift wide or anything like that, or balanced even. We can just keep him in the middle of the pitch, in the box, getting him behind, making those runs, and doing the best for the team. Also, I decided to keep him on stay forward because, as I said, because this is not the most offensive formation, I think by leaving your striker and your cam on stay forward, it kind of always makes sure that you've always got a couple of players forwards, and it just means that, you know, trying to get out sometimes, if you do have a bit of a defensive formation, if you do using this formation, sometimes you'll find that possibly it is a little bit defensive and it can be a little bit difficult to get out. So if you do leave the 2 players, the cam and the striker, on stay forward, it does mean you've always got players up the field, and it does mean that then by that your opponent has to commit to having some players back, because you've got some forward, otherwise your players are going to be free. Now moving down to Socrates, as just said, we did leave the cam on stay forward. We also had him on get into the box. Now for me personally, I like to have my cam and my wingers on get into the box, because, you know, even if you're not someone who's big on crossing the ball, you'll see an example, good example here of us, you know, crossing the ball and just other players being in the box. You know, especially your wingers and your cam. You know, you want players in the box. You can't not have players in the box. Even if you're someone that doesn't cross the ball a lot, you know, you don't go down the wing and cross. If you're someone that maybe just looks for cutbacks, you do need to have players in the box. If you've only got maybe your striker in the box, you know, if for example Martial's going down the wing and he's looking for a cutback, you want to be just hitting more than one player. So for me, having especially a big, tall, strong cam like Socrates getting into the box, it just means he's a bit of a powerhouse, and a presence, and it just gives you more players in the box to try and hit, and obviously more chances to score. Now moving on to the wingers. Now these instructions are obviously the same for Martial and for Traore on the other side. The left and right mids are the same. I only had them on getting behind and getting to the box. We've already discussed getting to the box, we don't want to go over that again. Getting behind, of course, if you have quick wingers, which again, if you're playing with wingers in FIFA, they should have pace. But getting behind, of course, if you've got pacey players is what you want to be looking for, because, you know, obviously you want to be getting forward, you want to be making goals, you want to be scoring chances. I decided to opt against using comeback on defense in this formation, because for me personally, as I said before, it is already kind of a little bit of a defensive type formation. I always find that when you have, like, you know, if you're using, for example, a 4-2-3-1 wide, I don't think you need comeback on defense, because it's already quite a compact formation. I don't think it's, and could be seen as quite a defensive formation. I don't think you need them on comeback on defense. If you have them on comeback on defense, it can just make it a little bit difficult to get out, because your team is already quite defensive. Trying to push up the field, you don't really have as many options. So I think definitely leaving them on balance. You could maybe even leave them on stay forward if you want to play a bit more of a counter-attacking game. I still think you want to have it on balance so your team is easier for your team to connect together. I think if you have them on stay forward, you know, if you have your whole attack on stay forward, it can maybe be a little bit difficult to link the play up going through the pitch. Now moving into the two central midfielders. Now for me, I pretty much kept them on standard. The only thing we changed was defensive position, obviously to cover centre. You know, that's the only thing you ever want to play. And the supports on crosses, I left these guys on staying edge of the box, because we've got the two wingers, the cam on get into the box. I've decided to leave the midfielders on staying edge of the box. One, so that they can, you know, nullify counter attacks. But two, we don't need more players in the box. We don't want to cram the box. You know, if we had these guys on get into the box, even if we had them on balance, that means occasionally they are going to make runs into the box, and it just means your team is going to become a little bit crowded. You're going to have maybe 5 or 6 players in the box, and then getting countered is going to be easy because you're not going to have anyone to cover. So stay on edge of the box also kind of neutralizes some of those counter attacks. And I just think that's the best way to play. Now moving into the fullback positions. Now for me personally, I had these guys on stay back while attacking. I did use balance for a little while, and whilst that is, you know, the positive to using them on balance and overlap especially is you had more attacking options. You know, it was something that I found that my team was more attacking. I was able to create a few more chances. And if you're someone that is maybe struggling to create chances with this formation, then do recommend obviously going on balance. I do recommend maybe trying the wide players on stay forward and see if that gives you some more options. When I use that with maybe a press on possession loss, I definitely found that creating chances was a lot easier. But by having your fullbacks on balance, especially given the fact that you don't have your wide players on come back on defence, you know, it does mean that when you're, for example, if your winger is there up the field and your fullback's overlapping, you are obviously have now got no cover, you know, especially given the fact that your wide players on come back on defence. So for me, I found that stay back while attacking was the best thing to do. You know, I found that after that I had a very solid foundation in defence, and I was still able to create plenty of chances going forwards. And then David De Gea, the goalkeeper, for me, I found that comes on crosses and sweeper keeper was the best thing to use. I do like comes on crosses is not really relevant for me personally, because I find that your keeper comes for a lot of crosses anyway without you having to set this tactic. But sweeper keeper for me is a must, because so many people do play those long through balls in behind over the top, and you do need to have your keeper on his toes, able to come and clear those balls. And it's just something that can maybe prevent a couple of chances that maybe you are conceding if it's something you haven't really tried yet. But overall, that is the 4-4-1-1. That is what I found to be the best tactics and instructions. And for me personally, I did really like this formation. It was actually really nice. At the beginning, it was a little bit slow trying to figure out what worked, but eventually when I settled on these tactics and instructions, and I found good success, obviously playing some good games, scoring some good goals, and actually not conceding too many goals, which was not necessarily surprising, because it could be seen as a little bit of a defensive formation. But I definitely thought this was a top formation and had a lot of good success with it. And you can see we haven't got like the best, most insane team, so we managed to pick up a few wins in Division 1 and do a really good job with this team. So I did really like this formation. I wouldn't necessarily say it was one of my favourite formations in FIFA, you know, obviously compared to the 4-3-3-5 or the 4-3-2-1, but I still think this is a very good formation. If you're maybe someone that is struggling and you can't really find a formation you settle on, I recommend going giving this a try with these instructions and tactics. And also let me know in the comment section, if you do give this formation a go, how those tactics and instructions played for you, because I know a lot of you guys do like to give me your opinion and tell me how they went for you, and all the time you guys tell me that they work really well for you and you have good success with them. So please do let me know how these tactics and instructions play for you. If you do want to see any more formation reviews, do drop a thumbs up on a video. Make sure you hit that subscribe button as well if you are new to the channel. And that is all for today, guys. Have an awesome day. I'm out.